Kurt Cobain once called him the greatest songwriter alive. David Bowie said he reminded him of why he loved art in the first place. And Mac Miller even tattooed one of his album covers on his leg. And yet, chances are you've never heard of Daniel Johnston. He sang in a squeaky, strained voice and played shaky rhythms on guitar or piano, often leaving mistakes in. Most of his songs were recorded alone on cassette tapes, which he handed out to strangers. They would sound something like this.
I really don't know how I came here.
It wasn't the kind of music most people fell in love with right away. Maybe that's why Daniel never built a huge following. That and his lifelong struggles with mental illness, which often made him unable to perform or write. So how did someone so unlikely become an icon to some of the biggest artists in the world? This is the colorful but tragic story of Daniel Johnston. As the youngest of 5 siblings, Daniel grew up on a farm in West Virginia in the 60s. He was a very creative child from a young age. He made comedy videos with one of his brothers and was a natural at drawing. He turned his room in the basement of the farm into a kind of art factory. He filled it with drawings, comics, and other colorful objects he collected. Daniel had decided that he would become an artist. He filmed everything and everyone for his art. He interviewed strangers or filmed his mother, who would get mad because he spent all his time on art instead of helping with household tasks. He was not living to the strict Christian values of this family, she thought. While studying art at Kent State University in Ohio, Daniel meets the love of his life, Laurie the librarian. He falls deeply for her, filming her and endlessly asking her to say "I love you, Dan" on tape, which she eventually does. When Dan learns that Laurie already has a boyfriend, some of the first signs of his mental problems start showing. Daniel becomes depressed, but Laurie will continue to be his inspiration for many years. In his depression, Daniel's musical journey begins. He starts singing and playing the piano, recording songs on a tape recorder at home. It's the only thing he does at this point. Not sure what to do, his parents eventually take him out of college and send him to first live with his brother and then with his sister in Houston, Texas. Missing his piano, he buys a cheap electric organ and continues recording songs. One day, Daniel makes an impulsive decision. His sister can't find him or his organ anywhere and starts to worry after a few days. Only months later she would learn where Daniel went. He joined a traveling carnival, selling corn dogs. The job at the carnival set in motion his professional music career in the early 80s. The carnival traveled to Austin in Texas. This is where Daniel starts actively sharing cassettes with his albums. In a shy manner, he hands the tapes to musicians, people on the streets, and even McDonald's customers, the place where he has found a new job. As he can't copy them, he has to re-record the same albums again and again. The strategy works. One day, one of the musicians that listened to his tapes gives him a gig to open for their own band. She didn't expect much of the tape, but when she listened to it, she says this.
And I said, "It was great. I loved it. You can totally open for us." And so I went home and I listened to it and I was blown away at its incredible genius.
Daniel is very nervous, but decides before the show that he will play his songs on guitar. The only problem, he doesn't really know how to play the guitar well.
People in the audience tended to be like, "What? Is this a joke? Is this guy supposed to be cool?" And they would be looking around at each other like, how am I supposed to react? Because he was so raw and so real in a lot of ways that people couldn't take it.
Daniel acquires some local fame in Austin. Local press write about the strange young man handing out tapes to strangers. He's a mysterious figure to most. The few gigs he plays are highly anticipated. It was a stroke of luck that made Daniel rise to national fame. MTV is in town to film a show about local Austin musicians. Daniel gets featured on national television as an artist of the local sincerity scene. He can hardly believe it himself and repeats that several times on TV.
My name is Daniel Johnston. This is the name of my tape, and it's Hi, How Are You? And I was having a nervous breakdown when I recorded it. How you doing? We're having a casual conversation on national TV. They're recording me tonight. I'm on MTV. Remember when we used to watch MTV back home?
The TV show is Daniel's ticket to fame. Magazines and record companies start calling the McDonald's where Daniel works, as he doesn't own a phone himself. Daniel gets a manager and new shows. Everything seems great, but with the attention, Daniel's grip on reality starts to crumble.
I used to be Daniel Johnston.
Who are you now?
I don't know.
Throughout his life, Daniel struggled with bipolar disorder and schizophrenia. Sometimes he would be really depressed. Sometimes he would be manic. And sometimes he would be delusional. His condition worsened when he experimented with psychedelics. He becomes obsessed with the devil and could even be aggressive. One day, he even injured his manager in a struggle. Daniel would be on and off medicine and in and out mental hospitals for a while. He would not always take the pills though, as he felt that it hindered him from performing and writing songs. The struggles almost cost him his life one day in the 1990s. In a harrowing incident after a concert in Austin, Daniel was flying home with his father in a private plane. His father is a licensed pilot. In a manic episode, Daniel believes he is Casper the Friendly Ghost. He takes the key from the ignition and throws it out of the window. The plane goes down, straight into some pine trees. Luckily, Daniel's father managed to successfully crash land, and they both survive with minor injuries. During Daniel's mental health struggles, other artists promoted his music. Band members of Sonic Youth are fans. They share Daniel's music and even invite him to come to New York to jam with them. The trip wasn't very successful, as Daniel is in a delusional state and gets arrested for painting Christian fishes on the Statue of Liberty.
Ladies and gentlemen, Nirvana.
In 1992, Nirvana had just become very famous with their album Nevermind, which included the legendary Smells Like Teen Spirit. Frontman Kurt Cobain was considered the voice of a generation and gained a massive following. What did he wear for MTV Awards, a music award show that was watched by millions? A t-shirt with a Daniel Johnston album cover. And it didn't stop there. He wore the shirt to every photo shoot for a while, making people wonder who this Daniel Johnston was. Not long after Kurt's promotion, Kathy McCarthy, the artist that gave Daniel one of his first gigs, releases an album with covers of his songs. All this attention doesn't go unnoticed to the record labels. A bidding war starts, while Daniel is in a mental hospital and hasn't heard of Kurt Cobain or Nirvana. Daniel refuses to sign with one of them, Elektra Records. The reason? They also have Metallica on the roster, and Daniel is convinced they are satanic. Daniel signs with Atlantic Records and releases his first professionally produced album Fun in 1994. It's a flop. They only sell about 6,000 copies. After the failure of Fun, Daniel's career slowed down. He was dropped by Atlantic Records and his health struggles kept him from touring or recording consistently. But he never stopped making art. From his parents' house in Waller, Texas, he continued drawing, painting, and writing songs. Over time, he had become a cult figure. His artwork was exhibited in galleries around the world, and his songs were covered by other artists like Tom Waits, Pearl Jam, or Def Cab for Cutie. In 2019, Daniel passed away at the age of 58 after a heart attack. Tributes poured in from musicians across genres. Eddie Vedder of Pearl Jam, for instance, recalls listening to Daniel with his friend and fellow rock legend Chris Cornell all night long. "We were laughing and crying and then smiling so hard that the tears were squeezed out of our eyes," he says. "We then looked at each other and said, 'He's better than the both of us.'" His unique songwriting voice, so pure and so direct, spoke to us deeply, said Def Cab for Cutie. Jeff Tweedy of Wilco said Daniel reminded us of the beauty in imperfection. And maybe that is why so many artists admired him. Daniel wasn't polished, and he didn't try to be. His songs are raw, honest, and vulnerable, the kind of art that makes you laugh, cry, and feel less alone. Daniel once sang, "True love will find you in the end." For the musicians and fans who found him, that line became true. If you want to dive deeper into Daniel Johnston's life, I highly recommend watching the documentary The Devil and Daniel Johnston. It's excellent. And if you enjoyed this video and want to discover more unheard voices and music, please like, subscribe and stay tuned. It means a lot. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video.
Don't be sad, I know you will. Don't give up until true love will find you in the end.